Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the St. Tammany Parish Special Council meeting on August 26th, 7 p.m. This is a special meeting due to COVID, and we have so many appeals that we decided rather than have them all on a regular council meeting, we said we could devote a little more time, and especially for the people interested that want to participate, we do not have room for everyone all at one time with a regular council meeting. So we decided to try this, and let's see how this one works. So I just want to say thank you for coming, and Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean, Mr. Fitzgerald, Ms. Casabon, Mr. Davis, Ms. Tanner, Mr. Toledano, Mr. Lorino,
Here.
Mr. Canulet, Mr. Mike Smith, Ms. O'Brien, Mr. Stefanczyk, Mr. Bender, Mr. Airy, and Mr. T.J. Smith. We have a quorum.
No, I'll get it in a minute. Okay, thank you. Mr. Toledano, would you go ahead and lead us in the pledge, please, sir?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Jimmy Davis, would you lead us in the invocation, please, sir?
Heavenly Father, please grace this council to make the right decisions for the parish as a whole. Also, please help those people that are in need or will be in need during this bad hurricane event that looks like it's going to be going towards the Lake Charles and the western side of the state and the eastern side of Texas. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, this is just an appeals meeting. Everything will be on appeals. Anyone wishing to speak on any appeal, for or against, would you please fill out a card, put it in the box, and we'll have it up when that appeal comes up. If not, you will not be able to speak. So if anyone hasn't done that, I would appreciate you doing that. While we're on the appeals, this is how it works for appeals at the council meetings. Each side of an appeal will have 10 minutes to make their presentation. It can be one person, 10, 20, whatever, but the bottom line is it's a 10-minute presentation by each side. Then we will have a 3-minute rebuttal. Once that side's finished, you can come back up, state your case again, whatever you want to do, but that one will be 3 minutes time limit. And then we'll have a 2-minute conclusion, and where the council will ask questions and we'll move on. So I just want everyone to know what we have here. Yes, Mr. Canulet.
So, with the way our arrangements are for getting people in and out of here, are we gonna have time in between appeals to let people come in?
Yes, sir. I have the police on guard out there, and they taking care of. And I'm very happy to see you. You're a little late, but I'm very happy to see you, sir. And it didn't take you long to ask me a question either, did it? I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, sir, the roll was called, Katrina. All righty. We'll go to appeal number 1, Stephen Mott appealing the zoning commission approval on March 3rd, 2020 to rezone 98 acres located on the east side of LA Highway 1081, south of Smith Road, north of Thibodeau Road, Covington, from A-1 Suburban District to A-2 Suburban District, Ward 3, District 3. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Both these appeals, 1 and 2, are linked, and both will be postponed pending a traffic study underway. So I move to postpone these appeals.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fitzgerald to postpone, second by Mr. Toledano. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none?
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 2, Stephen Mott appealing the zoning commission approval on March 3rd, 2020 to rezone 141 acres located on the east side of LA Highway 1081, south of Smith Road, north of Thibodeau Road, Covington, from A-2 Suburban District to PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay, Ward 3, District 2. I know you said you want to postpone that also.
So move, yes.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none?
Is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 3, Darling Design Homes LLC by James C. Cote appealing the Planning Commission denial on June 9th, 2020 to enter the parish right-of-way, specifically the unopened portion of Partridge Street, south of Sparrow Street, east of Egret Street, Dove Park subdivision, for the purpose of gaining access to the property. Ward 4, District 5. Is there Mr. Cote here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone, I filled out a card to speak on behalf of the appellant this evening, Mr. Cote, and Mr. Camp and McCalman LLC is the owner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Members of the commission, Paul Marone on behalf of the appellant
Hold
this
on.
evening.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Yes.
I'll be breaking my own rule here. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I'm on behalf of the appellant and the owner of the property. The request before you this evening is to enter the Partridge Street right-of-way. So what you have in this instance, you have an existing parish right-of-way, a portion of which has already been constructed, but a portion, though duly platted and established, there's no road or roadside ditches. And we're asking for the opportunity to enter into that unopened portion because my clients own property on each side of that roadway. And not just any property, but in fact lots that were duly approved and duly platted by the parish. So we're here tonight for the purpose of asking your permission to start the process to enter your right-of-way so that my client can gain access to his property. Now, what we're not asking you to do this evening is we're not asking you to create a lot. We're not asking you to dedicate a right-of-way. We're not asking you to approve a subdivision. All we're asking you to do this evening is give us the opportunity to start the process so that we can gain access to our property. And what does that mean? That means that we would have the obligation to retain a licensed engineer, to prepare plans and specifications in accordance with your ordinances that deal with roads and roadside drainage, to submit those plans to your engineering and planning staff, to have them review those plans, and if they are in accordance with your requirements for the construction of a road and roadside drainage, then the ability to build the parish a road so that my client can then get to their property. That's what the case tonight is about. And I would respectfully submit to you that there's no justification for denying this right this evening. Now, I recognize that there are concerns about drainage in this area. We're aware of that. We take cognizant of that. We know that that is an important component that will need to be addressed through this process. But we can't very well address that if we can't get your permission to even start that process. And that's what we're asking for tonight. So while there are drainage problems in that area, as I mentioned a moment ago, your process already dictates. And if you look at Section 3 of the resolution that is before you this evening, it specifically says that we have got to retain a licensed engineer, we've got to design plans and specifications for the road and the roadside drainage that meet your requirements, and we've got to submit that to you. So before any work can be done, that has to take place. And we have to be able to demonstrate to you at an engineering level that we can meet your ordinances. We can build the road as it's supposed to be built. We can construct the roadside drainage in accordance with your requirements. All of those have to be addressed at the appropriate time pursuant to your resolution and your ordinances. Now, you might ask yourself, and you may hear this evening, well, what happens if the road goes in? Yes, my client has the ability to access his property at that point, which is a good thing. Does he have the ability to build homes on those lots? Well, maybe. Not definitely, but maybe. There's a whole separate section in your resolution this evening that talks about if you want to build homes on lots of record, you've got to go through and comply with the drainage requirements of the parish. So again, if we're granted the approval this evening, we can build the infrastructure. But to build any homes, we then have to go back, we have to design and present plans and specifications for the homes that also comply with your drainage requirements. All of these are in place as I stand here this evening. All of these are obligations of ours. We understand those, and we intend to comply with those. And not until all of those are complied with can any work commence out there in any manner. So I would respectfully submit to you that with the inquiry that is before you tonight, which is just the initial step that will allow us to go have our engineer draft these plans and specifications and present them to you, that we ought to be allowed to do that. My client owns the property. The property is on a dedicated parish right-of-way. We'd like to build the parish a road so that we can get to my client's property, and we'd like to do that in accordance with your ordinances. So we would respectfully request your approval this evening of our request, which is simply that, to enter your right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Mr. Morrow, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? No, sir? Okay, thank you.
Nobody would like to speak for.
For it, yes, sir.
My side.
I might have a couple against here in a second, but I'm not sure. Okay. I have 3 cards in opposition. Sonia Strickland, Joseph Farray, and Erin Pitts. I know you all are out here. As I mentioned, I just want to be sure you realize you have 10 minutes, and however you all want to share that, or one person do it, it's entirely up to you, okay? So whoever wants to come up first, come up and state your name, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
My name's Eric Pitts. I live at 260 Partridge Street, at the end of the street. My family purchased 150 feet of frontage along Partridge Street at the dead end about 2 years ago. I
You want to
apologize, it's kind of gimpy
Take
here.
your time there, Eric. We'll stop. You got it?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, sir.
So first off, I think everybody needs to understand this area is deemed critical drainage. It's not kind of wet, it's very wet. You can get hip deep walking out in these areas where they're talking about putting a road through. Wildlife such, you know, it will be a challenge. It is a challenge living on this street as it is already. What I've noticed in the past couple of years since I've lived there is A lot of the lots that are being built on, I don't feel that they really comply probably with what the parish expects from builders. I say this because I built my own house on the street. We got all of our own permits. We did all of our own licensing. We did our own field plan. We hired our builder. We were not in, in a mass development or building 2 lots, 3 lots. We did it by the book, and in doing so, really kind of imperiled ourselves, because what I'm seeing is that the builders that are coming in, it's wall-to-wall red clay. Parish mistakenly handed out a building permit for someone to build on a 50-foot lot out there. I mean, that's substandard. That's substandard. It's supposed to be minimum 70? 75? But they were forgiven that, and they're building a lot on, they're building a home on that lot out there on Partridge Street. These lots at the end of Partridge Street where they're talking about building, all 21 of them, 50-foot lots. They're 50-foot lots. I'll just leave that there. So allowing this practice to continue, it's undoubtedly going to worsen the flooding issues that we have already. Resolving to just maintain the process through, and we'll get through it, we'll handle it till the end, I think is not enough. I think that what needs to be done is there needs to be resolution to the drainage issues first, before it's hurry up and develop and leave the community, the families, my family, drowning in effluent that's not draining from the ditches already, drowning in the runoff that undoubtedly will come and increase once they are finished building their homes or whatever it is they're doing, establishing roads. They're not establishing roads to put in retention ponds, I doubt. I don't think so. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 22 years. My concern are people. My concern is my community. I support the churches in my community, the restaurants, the struggling businesses that are facing the struggles they are right now. I will be the first one to get out of the way if y'all would just give me the same due course. Lend us some support. Let this issue be resolved before it's more business as usual. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Joseph?
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Joseph Ferry. I live at 241 Partridge Street. I live across the street from Mr. Piazzini and I are good friends and neighbors. We both share the same concerns. My wife and I have lived in that house for 13 years, and we've raised 2 kids there. And, excuse me, when we bought the house, there was nothing around us but woods. And we knew when we bought the house that there would be development around. We accepted that. Didn't like it, but we knew what was coming. My concern is that I have seen and dealt with developers a lot over my tenure in my job. My concern is that the builder or the owner of these properties is only concerned with his properties. He's not concerned with what happens outside of that. We see that on Dove Park Road. Right now, there's a big construction project going on across the street from Clico. And to our knowledge, there's been several cease and desist orders on drainage issues and other issues that have come up as it pertains to builders not fulfilling their obligations to the neighboring citizens. That is my main concern, is that the builder will not fulfill his essentially a moral obligation to existing citizens, neighbors. As Eric said, our drainage is obviously the biggest issue here. As he said also, it does not drain right now. The water has nowhere to go. It just builds up, and the only time our drainage ditches are dry is in a severe drought. So again, our concern is that the builder will come in and just compound these problems instead of fixing the existing problems that we've had for as long as I've lived there. Instead of fixing those problems first, we're going to swoop in and clear out a whole bunch of trees and create more drainage issues before fixing the existing problem. Our drainage ditches have not been cleaned, and I cannot tell you how long. And the funny thing is tonight on Partridge Street, I turned the corner coming home from work, and the first block, they've been cleaned out. Is it ironic that they were cleaned out the day that this, that this meeting is being held? Who knows? I just thought it was funny. It was a little irony there. So again, my bottom line is to just fix, please, will the parish fix our existing problems before they compound them by potentially ripping out all these trees and just creating more problems. That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming, sir. Ms. Sonia? They didn't leave you much time, Ms. Sonia, but I
Okay,
know you can
I'll be
do it.
brief. They pretty much said it all for me.
Yes, ma'am.
To all council members, let me begin by saying I would like to express the same concerns as I am a neighbor. A street runs off of Partridge. I'm on Sparrow, and we too are dealing with the open ditches standing with water and not draining. Somewhere down the road, something's not flowing right. But it is my concern of mine and other neighbors of how this could bring severe effects to the surrounding streets besides Partridge Street, but the nearby neighboring streets with flooding if development is done not properly with the drainage. Currently, Partridge Street and a nearby street such as Swallow Street are already dealing with the issues of flooding stated with the two gentlemen of my neighbors. In addition, we have not seen the impact yet of what the development of large amount of housings that are fixing to be built off of Doug Park Road across from Clico, along with additional other developments that are wanting to be proposed in our areas with new subdivisions that could consist of close to 600 additional homes. This could bring destructive flooding to our neighborhood as we are already having to deal with. And not to forget the additional amounts of traffic flow that could be added to the area with this street being put through. With all due respect and with said, I sincerely express my concerns and how it will affect our neighborhood, because I've been in that neighborhood for 15 years, and I have already seen throughout these years what just a couple hours of rain can do to our area. So with all due respect and with all said, I sincerely express my concerns, be heard on this issue, and ask that you please take all this information in consideration. And I ask too that you please do give consideration and due respect to the residents of Partridge Street and the nearby streets of our area, as we have severe concerns, deep concerns, and how this could affect our livelihood in the community and in our neighborhood that we live in. We love our area, but these are the concerns, and I ask you please to consider how it could affect our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sonia. There's 46 seconds left if anyone wants to come up and talk about it on the initial. Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll go to rebuttal. Mr. Marone, 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few comments. First, remember what we're here about. I told you were going to hear about concerns with drainage, and you did. We're not here asking you to create a subdivision. We're not here to ask you to create lots. My client owns property, just as these fine people own property along Partridge Street. I believe my client has the right to enter the process to be able to access that property. But to do that, he's got to demonstrate that in doing so, he is complying with you with all of your ordinances, particularly as it relates to drainage. That's for the infrastructure, that's for any homes that could be built there. The gentleman said this is a critical drainage area and it is a challenge. That may be true. That doesn't mean my client doesn't have the right to access his property. All it means is that he has got to be able to demonstrate to you that he can access his property without violating your ordinances or having a deleterious impact on the surrounding areas. I can't speak to what other developers or what other builders have done out there, but I can tell you that it would be inappropriate, in my view, for this council to tell my client, you can't access your property because somebody over there may or may not have followed the ordinances. We're telling you we intend to follow your ordinances. We understand what those ordinances are. We understand the challenge that is before us. But we also know that we have private property along a public right-of-way. And we're willing to take the responsibility to design the infrastructure for that right-of-way and to build it all at our cost, just so we can get to our property. We're not asking the parish to do that. That's our responsibility. All we're asking is for you to give us that opportunity. And in giving us that opportunity, you have many, many safeguards in place to assure that before one spoonful of dirt is turned on Partridge Street, that any work done is done in accordance with your ordinances and is mindful of the challenges that exist in this area. And if we can't do that, then we can't do any work out there. It's that simple. It's that simple. So, again, I understand, I appreciate, and I respect the concerns that the three individuals have expressed this evening. We know that there are challenges in that area. We know that there are improvements that need to be made in that area. In fact, there are some improvements that are on the board already through your Public Works and your engineering office. And we know that we'll have quite a burden to prove what we can do out there to make sure that it's in compliance. But we're confident that we can do that, and we ask for your approval this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Mr. Eric, would you like to come up on that 3 minutes, or anyone else, you know, Ms. Sonia or anybody else?
I'll just take a minute.
You take your time, sir. You got 3 minutes. You
Okay.
take your time.
Look, I mean, I don't want to rehash everything that was said. I mean, you knew we were going to talk about drainage, you know, it's not a small thing. That area is not platted correctly, by the way. It's platted, but it's platted again, 50 feet, supposed to be 75. You can get into that area anytime. People do it all the time. They drive their four-wheelers back there. You can go back there and look at it and see what's back there. But I think the thing is I realize and I respect, as a man, as a human, you know, whatever, someone's right to build on their property, and so, that's a God-given thing. I mean, you, of course, without a doubt. Well, there's things, you know, that are sitting on someone's desk somewhere. There's things in the planning stages. Well, let's see them. Let's see those finished before, you know. There's time. There's time. We're not going anywhere. Partridge Street's been there forever, you know. How's about finishing some of those projects, and then, yeah, I might even let y'all use my driveway to turn your vehicles around, you know. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else from the other side? Okay.
Ready?
Thank you. Mr. Toledano, you
Yeah.
want me to go to you, or you want to go to questions before we go to you?
Well, I think I'd like to get some basic premise information out.
You go right ahead.
for the
I
record.
have a few questions when you're ready.
Okay. And Ross, I'm going to ask, well, first I'm going to ask Mr. Morone, so we get the dimension to this. How much distance, if you will, for your record, are you opening? How long from the place that Partridge is now terminated to the extension? How much distance are you asking for?
It's just over 500 feet, I believe, and I'm looking for the exact 560 feet.
Okay. And of that 560 feet, do I presume that, I think you made mention to Mr. Camp, does he own on both sides of that street?
He does.
Are any of those lots, are those lots already laid out?
They are.
And for the benefit of the audience, as they are laid out now, they are in 50-foot lots, correct?
Correct.
What is your understanding if your client intends to build on those lots? What must he do to meet the building requirements in St. Tammany Parish today with regard to those 50-foot lots?
He would have to combine two of them pursuant to the contiguous lot rule to be able to make a buildable site.
And explain for the record, these nice ladies and gentlemen, what that means by the contiguous lot rules.
So what my understanding of that rule is that in these older subdivisions where you have lots that are 50 feet or less in width, that by themselves, they are not buildable sites if the same owner owns a lot next door and has the ability to combine them to re-subdivide to a larger lot. In this instance, Mr. Camp does own lots adjacent to, so he would be subject to that contiguous lot rule and would have to join two of the lots together to make one buildable site.
And to your knowledge, as you stand before us tonight, do you know if your client intends to build 75-foot lots, 100-foot lots, or what dimensional?
I believe at least 75. In some instances, it will be 100 because of the number of lots and the way it lays out.
Okay.
So it's going to be about, less than, about 50% of the lots that are there will be, they'll have to be combined. So you'll have about 50% less that will be the buildable sites.
And if you will, in your due diligence and research, on what we call the bird streets, egret, sparrow, partridge, what is the average lot size?
To my knowledge, I think they're the actual buildable site or lot.
The average lot that houses are
Houses
built on
built.
out there.
I think they're
For
prob-
instance, Eric's, Mr. Ferry's, and I'm not asking you
Yeah.
specific, what is the average?
I believe the average would be around 75.
Okay. And any of the people that spoke before, is that the representation that 75-foot is average? Do you believe that to be about accurate?
It varies, but most of the newer ones are 75.
Okay.
We
I just,
we don't ask questions to the audience.
I got-
They come up to the
I
mic,
got you.
okay?
I got you. All right, so I have our chief engineer here, and I'm going to ask him to make a comment. But before I do that, let me mention this too for the record. What I call the bird streets has been an area of concern for me for some period of time. Quite some time ago, after doing my own due diligence in that area, I contacted Mr. Watson's office and sat down with him and his engineering staff. And some of you ladies and gentlemen might not be aware of this. And I said to him, something has got to be done in this area. To the credit of Mr. Watson and his group, they are just almost finished a plan, a design plan with funding available to make a substantial improvement in that area. And I'm going to interrupt what I say with Mr. Loreno's permission, ask Mr. Watson to come forward and explain the engineering plan of action for the bird streets, of which Mr. Watson is intimately familiar with the area that y'all have spoken about.
Jay, you can come on up and speak, buddy.
Good evening. So, the project that Reichert's speaking of.
Please
is-
take your mask off, 'cause I know
Yeah.
it's just hard for us.
And Jay, not everybody knows who you are, so tell these people what position you hold in
Jay
the parish.
Watson, with the parish engineer for St. Tammany, work in public works engineering, and we have been working on a project, a drainage project, to correct drainage issues along Sparrow, Swallow, Partridge, the streets that you talked about. We'll be regrading the ditches, replacing culverts, resizing culverts, putting them at the proper elevation to where the ditches should convey the water out of the subdivision when we get a rain event instead of, right now, a lot of the ditches hold water where culverts are higher and lower and higher, and the grades of the ditches aren't set correctly. So that's what we're going to be doing.
And explain about, if you will, how you're going to put the additional drainage that circles back across to the drainage across Dove Park Road, if you would.
Right, so most of the drainage south of Swallow, is it Swallow or Sparrow? Sparrow Street, I think, is the east-west road. On Partridge, will drain back up to the north and then flow to the east, down Sparrow, and then through a drainage lateral that will cross Dove Park Drive.
Yeah. And you are familiar generally with the project that Mr. Morone described, is that correct?
I am familiar with that project.
Logistically, at least,
Yes,
you know
the
where it is.
location of it. It's on the south end of Partridge Street. While we don't have plans for that project yet, they haven't obviously been given the approval to enter the right-of-way for the project. Once they do, if they do get permission to enter the parish right-of-way, engineering will have to review plans, and they'll have to be in conformance with drainage and roadway standards for building out the roadway up to parish code and providing for detention in accordance with our ordinances.
Right. So insofar as your engineering plans are on paper, shall we say, will those engineering plans also accommodate what would be an open street in the case of this project if it would be approved?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get you to digress for a second. Tell the ladies and gentlemen in the audience what the timetable is for that. Where are you? The conversation, you and I just had a conversation this past week on the progress report. Am I not correct?
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
And one of the items that we heard earlier tonight at the agenda review and finance review was for a budget amendment for this project. We have the plans complete now. We had, as we develop projects, we have an estimate on what we think the cost is going to be. As we tighten up plans, those estimates are fine-tuned more, and we realized that we needed an additional, we estimate we need an additional $47,000. So we wanted to make sure we brought that budget amendment before the council to get that approved so that when we do put the project out to bid, that we stay within budget and we're able to go forward.
Yeah.
So once we get the budget approved, we should be putting the project out to bid soon after.
And soon after, again, I know these people are most anxious to hear, what would you estimate, assuming you don't run into some problem, what would you estimate to be the time you would put it out to bid?
Within the next month or so.
Okay. And what is the total estimate of cost for that project?
I think it is 600,000 in that. Let me see.
And then the next question I'm going to ask you.
576,000.
Right. And the next question I'm going to ask you, are those funds available? In other words, we're not going to bog down having to search in a cubbyhole to find. Those funds are dedicated to this project, correct?
As soon as the council approves it.
So that is a reality. Am I not correct in
correct,
saying
yes.
that? And as it relates to the project that Mr. Morone described, i.e. minimum lot size of 75 feet, do you understand that would be in compliance with the applicable law in that area as the minimum lot size?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. From your standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, do you know any impediment to this project? Is there something unusual about that piece of property that would cause you concern preliminarily, in all fairness to you?
It is in an area of special concern, but they're going to have to follow the rules and the ordinances that we have in place, whether, it's an area of special concern or flood zone, critical drainage area, it doesn't mean that there's a moratorium that it can't be developed, but there's just certain criteria that it has to follow,
Yeah.
and they will follow.
So from your standpoint, this project, with the oversight of your department, and with the new plan that will be built soon, correct? What, by the way, what is the timetable for building out the plans that you have designed?
Well, yes, sir.
This has got nothing to do with the appeal.
I understand, Mr. Kane. Okay, go ahead, Rick, if you don't mind, make this the last one.
Yeah, I will, but in all fairness to the audience,
Well, the answer is, we're not here to talk about the drainage
understand.
issue right now, and we'll get into that. It's about the appeal, and that's what the council members are passing on to me.
well, and I apologize then to the council for asking that question, but could he answer that question?
It'd be a several-month
Okay,
project.
all right, okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Watson, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
For all you do, sir, thank you.
I wanted then, Mr. Lorino, just say something else so it's absolutely clear. Part of that project and part of the work we've done out there did place a crew out there to start cleaning some ditches. Had nothing to do with Mr. Marone's client's project whatsoever. They've done some already, and that's where they happen to be next. In fact, they called and gave me a report on it. So I'm going to defer now to anybody else that has questions, and then I would have some thoughts afterwards.
Thank you very much. I have a thought. Mr. Marone?
Yes, sir.
I know we talked about this, and I'm sorry. We talk about this a lot, and that is when we are hearing an appeal, we don't have drainage and things like that. And Mr. Taladano just brought some issues up, but that's not an official piece of paper that we have. That's not your fault. I just want to throw that out there, okay? Okay. That's not your fault. But for me, I have been speaking on this for a long time. And I firmly believe, when Mr. Eric came up, that he had a legitimate cause when he talks about flooding out there. Because Mr. Taladano had a lot more hair on before he started dealing with Dove Park Road 5 years ago.
Understood.
Okay? And I have had a lot more hair since I've been hearing about Dove Park Road. So when I sit here and I listen and I understand everything you're saying, believe me, I understand it. And as we say, appeals are the hardest thing that we do up here, I believe, at the council. But I am to the point, and it's going to start tonight, that I am not going to vote for anything moving forward unless I see a drainage and a traffic study come from planning and zoning and allow them to have it so that we have a full picture. And I totally understand that your builder will do that. As I said, it's not your fault. You just happen to be the gentleman sitting in front of me right now. So that is my concern. I'm fully aware. I'm tired hearing about flooding in Dove Park Road area, whether it's true, not true, whatever the case may be. And I know my good friend over there has been working his tail off on that issue. So I just wanted to say that, and so that's my issue with this. And if there's any other questions, Mr. Jimmy Davis?
Yes. A question for Paul. What's the underlying zoning? A4?
Probably, I'm not exactly sure what the underlying zoning is because it wouldn't,
Or Ross?
I think it's A4, but I
Well-
couldn't promise that because since there are lots of record, the underlying zoning is somewhat inconsequential since the contiguous lot rule requires that they be joined.
Well, if the zoning is A4, your minimum lot size is 90 feet.
Correct.
Okay, so you'd have to take two of these 50-foot lots and make one home out of it.
Correct. Yeah,
Not
they're gonna-
75
The
feet.
contiguous lot, the zoning aside, the contiguous lot rule is going to require that.
Right, so it's not taking 3 of these lots and making 2 homes out of them. It's taking 2 of these lots and making 1 home.
I think
Do you
that's-
agree with that?
I think that's probably correct based on the contiguous lot rule. Now, I
It's
don't know
just
what
that
the
I don't want to
zoning is.
adopt anything it's not kosher with the underlying zoning. The zoning and if it is A4A or A4D, you can't have 75-foot lots.
Right.
Is that correct, Ross?
That's correct, but also remember that
Yeah.
right now, we're talking about the enter the right-of-way process.
Right.
And anything that he would come to my office to permit to build would
So
have to
once he
adhere
comes
to
through the
to
planning
zoning.
department, they would assess that,
Absolutely.
and then you would say, okay.
Absolutely.
I
Right.
just, because I know when you said 75, I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know.
Right.
That would be the minimum for the area if they have their own.
Ross, would you speak into the mic, please?
Yeah, so coming to my department for building permits, at which time they would apply, all, ordinances would, be adhered to, just as Jay stated, with the infrastructure, with design of that. It would be the same thing with building permits.
Yeah, I was just wondering because that may have been the reason why the P and Z commission denied this. Because maybe they had either heard or maybe you had said something about 75-foot lots and things like that. So I'm just, and do you recall how many of the P and Z commissioners made a motion to deny?
Yeah, this was one of the meetings that was at the Castine Center.
Right.
And it was a little, I believe, based on my notes, that there were 4 that voted for and 5 that voted against, which meant there was no action, but those were the numbers, I believe.
Okay,
It was definitely a mixed
Yeah.
vote.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canulet.
Not for you.
Yes, sir.
This is for Carlin, I guess. Unless something is, I'm making a real bad mistake here. I don't believe we have the authority to deny access to property. And this is more of a legal issue, and I appreciate what Reichert and Jay has done to try to get your area fixed. But every area in this parish has got problems. But this to me is more of a legal issue than it is anything, so if you don't mind, Carlin, I would like an answer on something. I hang around lawyers too much.
I'd have to do a little bit more research on this specific case, but I would say that what you would ask the applicant to do is follow all of the applicable parish ordinances and then look to the staff report to see if they're doing so. And that, you would want, you just wouldn't want to have an arbitrary reason to deny it. You need to have a well-reasoned rationale for denying such a request, but I would have to research the specifics to tell you if specifically you could deny this ordinance and on what grounds.
So what we've heard tonight, just strictly tonight, I personally have not heard anything that's going to stand up in law saying they cannot access their property.
Yeah, and that would be your prerogative tonight, to hear all of this evidence and decide whether you think that this application meets the parish standards.
Right. I mean, part of our job is to keep us out of lawsuits. That is part of our job. So, thank you.
Mr. Stefanik?
Yes, I wanted to ask the question, I think a little bit along the line that Chris was talking about. I know we can't deny somebody use of their or access to their property. My question is there another access that's available for them to get to this property?
Mr. Morrow?
No, sir, Mr. Stefanik, this is the only point of access to the property.
And second question is, how did it get landlocked?
I can't answer that. I know that the subdivision was approved and laid out. Why Partridge Street was not constructed all the way to the end of the right-of-way as set forth on the plat, I don't know the answer to that. But that's what's resulted in the situation where we find ourselves this evening.
Now, wait a minute, I mean, now you just said something different. If there is if you can't get there, that's one thing. If you can get to that, I mean, I don't know how many others have had it, but I've had a lot of, lots of record and everything where we didn't ever go in and develop the streets. But if they had access to it they could come in and develop it basically, you know, if they had the access to it already, they could come in and develop it at the right size lots or whatever, meet the zoning requirement. Now, if they didn't have, if they had the access and just didn't want to build a road for the parish, the parish says you got to build the roads in there. I believe that's what we say. And so that's why I'm wondering do you have the access to those roads already? And if not, how in the world did this piece of property get that away?
So maybe I misunderstood your question when you talked about access before. So what we have is exactly what you just mentioned, which is a subdivision of record that has a right-of-way that has been dedicated,
Right.
but it just hasn't been built out. So these lots have frontage on a right-of-way, but the roadway and drainage features have not been built, so we're asking for permission tonight to build that.
And you're going to build the roads and everything, I assume?
That's correct.
Because, I mean, having a right-of-way doesn't mean anything to us, you know, to a certain extent, it doesn't mean anything to us from a street standpoint if it's not, you know, you got a street built. And if
Correct.
you have to go in and cut the trees down or whatever it is,
Correct.
it's a whole different situation than saying, you know, we're not getting access. You're getting access, you just got to be able to want to do that part of it.
Correct, which we are willing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Ms. O'Brien?
If I'm understanding this correctly, if we deny this, you have no ability to access that property at all. There's no alternative route, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were speaking to me, Ms. O'Brien.
Just in general. So if we deny this, there's no alternative route that can be utilized to access these properties.
The only route to these properties is through the right-of-way that we're asking to enter to build the street for.
Okay, and Carl, and just from a legal standpoint, if we do not have drainage and traffic studies and all, which we don't typically require at this point, would this be considered arbitrary and capricious if we deny?
I'd
Without
rather
a legitimate-
not answer that question
Okay.
in public. Sorry, that's legal advice.
Okay, well, I guess I shouldn't have asked that, but I mean, I'd just like to know. I agree with Chris. From a legal standpoint, how can we deny access to somebody's property?
Yes.
If they're willing to build the road, and if they're willing to do everything to parish standards, and no changing the rules, if they're going to be in compliance of every single thing, and if they don't follow the rules, then they are denied, correct? Correct, Ross? Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, as I answered to Chris, you just want to look to the ordinance and the requires of the ordinance and that staff report and the letter that you saw and judge based on compliance with the ordinance.
Okay. I'm just concerned about the legal aspect like Chris.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Mr. Bender?
Chairman. So I want to refer to, because I want to make sure I understand this fully before I vote. In my district, I have a lot of what's called lots of record that are simply woods, okay? There's no streets, trees everywhere, both on lots that are owned by somebody and on open streets everywhere, okay? Since coming to the parish council from the city council of Slidell, I was told originally, and I want to make sure this is still accurate, that the parish would not go in and open these unopened streets, pay for that themselves, that the property owners would have to first open the street, pay for the asphalting, et cetera, and then we would, through the administration, look at the street, determine whether it was qualified to be placed in our road maintenance inventory. At which time, after built, and built correctly, then parish government would be responsible for upkeep, per se, and maintenance. So, Mr. Morone, if I could ask, and then I'd like to ask Mr. Liner a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So is this an unopened road that that you are saying it's dedicated? It's not built, like I'm talking about in my district, and by the way, all over the place.
Yes.
So are you asking simply to build this road that is listed as a road but has never been opened?
That's correct. It's the exact scenario that you just laid out from your district. Yes.
Okay, so you all would open it. It would have to meet parish regulations. And your client would have to pay the expense. It would have to be opened by parish regulations, approved as eligible for the road maintenance inventory program.
After construction, it would be inspected.
Yes.
Before it would be taken into your road maintenance program. That is correct.
Okay, and Mr. Liner, do you agree with what I laid out?
Except, I would say it wouldn't be inspected after construction, it would be inspected
During.
construction.
Yes.
And accepted at final inspection.
But
Agreed.
the use of that road that has never been, and I know Mr. Davis has tons of these as well in his district, okay? And we've always said, and Mr. Liner, do you agree with this, that the landowners, it's their responsibility to pay for the initial opening of those streets, or a street. And after that, as inspected during construction, if it reaches the level of it can be placed in our road maintenance inventory system without us having problems in the first year, let's say, then they've opened it, paid for it, and then it becomes ours. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my question, and based upon that, I don't understand how we, it seems like they're following the procedure. Let me stop there. Mr. Toledano's raising his hand.
We're going to get him. Anybody from down below?
No, got one more.
Any-
That's the most important. Council person over here, let's talk about this.
Mr. Toledano?
Nope. Hang on.
Oh, we got, oh, okay. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Ms. Casavant.
What I am seeing and understand what I'm seeing and understanding, this is the premise, that this landowner wants access to property which has been landlocked. State law says you cannot, you have to grant a right-of-way. And that's what I think they're asking for, is a right-of-way. The rest comes in with construction. He can't build on that property until he has met our standards of building that road, including the drainage, et cetera. And that's how, am I seeing this, is this what we're saying and what we're doing? Is that this petition is requesting to enter his property. And by doing so, he is taking it upon himself to build to our standards the road. The rest of the testimony I've heard is that we are working on, their concerns are the drainage, what's happening in there, and it looks like we have a plan in that area that we're working on. But at this moment in time, the petition says that he's requesting to enter his property.
Thank you, Ms. Casavant. Mr. Toledano?
Mr. Marino, thank you very much. I must say, I think we had a full discussion. I think it's for the benefit of everybody here, and particularly those ladies and gentlemen who live in that area. It's my appreciation that the law on this is fairly clear. I think they do have a right to enter that. I believe that for that reason, my motion is to override, correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, my motion would be to override the Planning Commission's denial, correct? And it would be subject to them meeting all requirements for road specification, and certainly at the time that they would choose to develop it, they meet any and all requirements relative to development, including particularly the contiguous lot rule. And that is my motion, and I offer it as such.
We have a motion by Mr. Toledano. We have a second by Mr. Canulet. Is there any other questions about it? I just have one, Mr. Lerner. If this is passed and the road goes in, will there be a drainage study to adversely affect anyone else in that area?
Because it's a special area of concern, there will be extra scrutiny on any building permits.
Please speak.
Because this is an area of special concern, there will be extra scrutiny on design standards. So yes.
Okay.
And in fact, building of the road also includes drainage features.
Good. So you will have something, and they will go ahead and apply and conform to everything.
Yes, sir, and I'm assuming Jay's department will be involved as well with the review.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, sir, very much. Okay, any other question? Seeing no other questions, please vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with,
Oh, one. Does it take?
Can I finish?
I voted
oh,
against
the
you.
motion passes with 10 yeas, 1 nay, and 2 absent.
Thank you, dear. Thank you,
You're
ma'am.
welcome.
Okay. Number 4, Mr. Carlo Hernandez appealing the zoning commission approval on June 23rd, 2020 to make a major amendment to the PUD planned unit development overlay on 161 acres located at northwest corner of Interstate I-12 and LA Highway 1088, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 5, and District 7. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, what's that thing? For which one, the records? Okay. Okay, we need a motion to introduce the ordinance that was just passed. Motion by Mr. Stefanski. Yes, sir.
The motion that you took, you recorded 10 for, 1 absent, or 2 absent and 1 against. That's only 13 people. There needs to be something to add up to 14.
Jerry was here, yeah.
There was 11 yeas.
You said 10, okay.
11 years, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. No, we need you need a motion for this one? Okay, we need a motion and a second to override. Okay. Is that motion by Mr. Toledano? Second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote. You don't have to vote, thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, Carlos. Mr. Hernandez, hold on 1 second. Yes, sir. You have it.
Thank you. Carlo Hernandez. On May 3rd, 2001, the Parish Council adopted the ordinance creating this 161-acre planned unit development, PUD, which was to contain residential, commercial, and institutional land uses. No development took place in this PUD, and on April the 3rd, 2014, or almost 13 years after the PUD was established, the Parish Council adopted an ordinance which modified the original PUD into commercial and industrial lots developed with 5 different types of zoning districts, W1, W2, W3, W4, and W5. The W stands for Wadsworth. The land uses adopted were unique to this PUD. The permitted land uses under W1 parcels 1 through 43 are 1, research and development, 2, data centers and data warehousing, 3, general, professional, and medical office buildings and hospitals, 4, software development and programming, 5, services and retail, 6, parcel service, 7, health and fitness centers, 8, commercial recreation, 9, indoor recreation establishments, 10, warehouses and distribution centers, excluding mini warehouses and storage, 11, music studio, radio and television studios, broadcasting stations, and radio and television broadcasting transmitters. 12, parks and playgrounds. Those are the 12 permitted uses under W1. The maximum building height is 60 feet. The maximum building size is 250,000 square feet. The minimum lot size is 21,780 square feet, or 1/2 acre. The following uses are specifically excluded from W1, parcels 1 through 43. Banks and financial institutions, grocery stores, hotels, motels, and convention centers, restaurants and lounges, mini warehouses and storage facilities, drug stores and pharmacies, convenience stores and with gasoline stations, automotive refueling stations. Now, under W2, the parcels B through F, those are 5 parcels. The permitted uses listed in W2, and those are similar and are compatible, are intended to be non-exclusive, and they're virtually the same as the previous ones with one exception, but I'll read them anyway. Number 1, research and development. 2, data centers and data warehousing. 3, general, professional, and medical office buildings and hospitals. 4, software development and programming. 5, service and retail. 6, parcel service. 7, health and fitness centers. 8, commercial recreation. 9, indoor recreation establishments such as bowling alleys, skating rinks, and theaters. 10, music studio, radio and television studios, broadcasting studios, and radio and television broadcasting transmitters. 11, parks and playgrounds. 12, banks and financial institutions. 13, grocery stores. 14, hotels, motels, and convention centers. 15, restaurants and lounges. 16, drugstores and pharmacies. 17, convenience stores with gasoline sales. Those are the 17 permitted uses under W2. Now, the maximum building height is 100 feet as compared to the previous 60 feet. The maximum building size is the same, 250,000 square feet. Minimum lot size, 65,340 square feet, or 1.5 acres. Now comes W3, parcels G through N. And those are 8 parcels. All of the uses listed in W2 with a maximum building height of 200 feet and a maximum building size of 400,000 square feet. W4, parcel A, all of the uses listed in W2 and many warehouses and storage facilities. W5, parcel P1, institutional. 1, wastewater treatment plant. 2, water well. 3, other uses or similar and compatible thereto. That was adopted back in 2014. New parcels 2, which contains 22.7 acres, and parcel 3, which contains 10 acres, appears to correspond with what was designated as W3, parcels G through N in 2014, which have a maximum building height of 200 feet and a maximum building size of 400,000 square feet. This is the area where the petitioner wants to eliminate the 50-foot buffer from the existing entrance into the PUD to its western border and move the buffer to other borders which presently have no present development. The petitioner is requesting to add as permitted uses to parcels 2, 3, 4, and 5, transportation terminal, bus, truck, or other, and warehouse and distribution. Parcel 1, which has 92 acres, is similar to W1, which already permits warehouses and distribution, excluding mini warehouses and storages. With a maximum building height of 60 feet, the maximum building size of 250,000 square feet, and a minimum lot size of 21,780 square feet, or 1/2 acre. In the year 2014, a PUD approval, the petitioner agreed verbally to the Parish Council that no heavy manufacturing, quote unquote, would be permitted in the PUD. Will the same restriction continue with the addition of transportation terminal, bus, truck, and other, and warehouse distribution in parcels 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the PUD? Will parcel 5 be limited to the same institutional uses as W5, which had number 1, wastewater treatment plant, 2, water well, 3, other uses that are similar and compatible thereto, in addition to the transportation terminal, bus, truck, or other, and warehouse and distribution? What is the maximum building height, the maximum building size, and the maximum lot size in parcel 5? Those were not identified in 2014. I am requesting that the Parish Council not approve the moving of the 50-foot buffer from the front of the PUD adjacent to the Interstate 12 westbound on-ramp, where the buildings would be permitted to have a maximum height of 200 feet and a maximum size of 400,000 square feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Anyone else? No. Okay. Mr. Marone, we're back again.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Paul Marone, this time on behalf of the ASBE Fund, who requested the major amendment to the PUD. For those of you who aren't aware, we're talking about the property that is at the northwest quadrant of Highway 1088 and I-12. It's a large cleared parcel of property. I'm sure you've all been by it and are all familiar with it. Our request tonight, I think, is very simple, and I'm going to try to simplify it for you. We have, one, we're asking to relocate a strip of green space, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And two, we're asking to add 2 new permitted uses on 3 of the 5 parcels in this PUD. There are 5 parcels in the PUD. I will concede, like Mr. Hernandez noted, that it has been amended over the years. But tonight, we have a very simple request before you. There is a strip, a 50-foot strip of green space that is along the front of the property along the I-12 on and off ramp. We are asking to relocate that. That strip is cleared, and there is already existing green space within the DOT right-of-way. So with no marketable trees, no trees for buffering there, with there being green space already existing within that right-of-way, we're asking to simply relocate that to the other corners of the property, the other sides of the property. Other than that, on these 4 parcels, we're asking to add as permitted uses transportation terminals and warehouse and distribution centers. I would submit to you that each of these uses is absolutely appropriate and consistent with the other uses that are already allowed in this area, and neither of which, or neither of the 3, or the 2, excuse me, are bring heavy manufacturing. Warehouse and distribution is just that. It's not heavy manufacturing, it's warehousing and distribution. So the commitment that was made not to have heavy manufacturing is not being vacated with our request this evening. To the contrary, it's remaining in place. All we're asking is for the relocation of that very minimal green space to other areas within the site and the approval of transportation terminals and warehouse and distribution centers as part of the myriad of other permitted uses on this site. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the council might have with regards to the request, but I would submit to you that as the staff and as the zoning commission both offered no objection and support for the request, it's appropriate for this PUD, and I ask for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Paul.
you.
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The zoning commission did have some questions about this, but we'll leave that for another day. You know, I think it's pretty clear to me, anyway, these 8 parcels that are in the area that the buffer is requested to be moved are where you could, in the 8 parcels, each of these parcels could have a height of 200 feet for the building and 400,000 square feet, each of those parcels. Now, it's pretty clear to me, unfortunately, and I hope it's clear to you, that maybe this demonstrates pretty clearly the need for some buffer there. Now, I think that those that have compared this to another distribution area that, and we'll just think back whether there was a buffer zone established for that. But And of course, the 400,000 is not quite the same as 850 or 1 million, but clearly there are these 8 lots that 400 each. I guess it's conceivable that you could combine them and then have the thing, but maybe not. Maybe it'd be 400,000 each. But clearly, you could have major development along this corridor right here, and it would seem to me reasonable, quite reasonable, to request a buffer, at least a 50-foot buffer as presently exists, and no need to move it to the sides where there's nothing there right now, although, who knows, maybe in my lifetime there will be something there. But, you know, this other development, this development here at this location has been sitting there for many years and with no improvements. I would hope that when we do have improvements, that we do have, you know, some semblance of the kinds of things that we want to see in this parish, and one of those things is proper buffering for between areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few follow-up comments. There's only 5 parcels. There's only 5 large parcels in this PUD. And we're asking for 2 more permitted uses. And certainly, when these lots or parcels are developed, your existing landscaping and buffer requirements for any building permit are going to apply here. You're not tossing those out. All we're asking for is where you have a large buffer area because of the interstate right-of-way and the on-ramp there, that we not stack green space next to green space in that area. That it's better utilized along the side lot lines or the side parcel lines where there will be development one day. And with regard to the fact that the property has been there for many years, I'm here tonight because we sure hope that we can put some of this property into commerce. That my clients, the owners, would very much like to put this property into commerce. And they work diligently to try to do that all the time. And this is a step in that direction. We want to bring commerce to that area. We want to bring commerce to the area that's good and compatible with the parish and that's consistent with the PUD that has been approved. Again, this is a PUD that is in place, that has been approved. We're asking for some very minimal modifications, if you will. I believe they're reasonable, and we ask for your consideration this evening as to these amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I guess I'll start.
Go ahead.
So, Paul, please come back up. So, I don't have a lot of problems with a lot of it, just the buffer. So, and I will say this, I did play on the interstate side of the interstate, and they did try to put me in jail. So, that's their property. They have, they could put whatever they want there, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. I just don't understand why we need a 50-foot buffer on the side of the woods when we could really put something nice on the front of this place and really sell that in the business. I don't get it. I get all the other stuff. I don't quite get why we want to get rid of the buffer. You don't, there's nothing, Ross, there's nothing that says we have to have 50-foot, 80-foot trees in a buffer, is there?
Well, the PUD dictates when it was adopted what the buffer would be. So this is just a shifting of the buffer. The reason why it's a major amendment to the PUD is because of the use change, not because of the buffers. So because they want to add uses, it requires to go to the Planning Commission, Zoning Commission, come here to the council as an appeal, if it made it that far. And again, staff does not have an issue with the change in use, and that's, the main reason for a major amendment to the PUD, not the change in the buffer.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. Ms. Casabon.
Paul, are we looking at, I can talk about it.
Yes, ma'am.
As a teacher. I got the teacher one. Paul, on those, you're saying that you're removing the buffer, this is where you're going to put the warehouses, et cetera, next to the interstate. Is that correct? Or,
Well, you'll proposing to relocate the
The-
buffer along the east and west property lines.
okay, and you're,
What
you're
will
putting it
actually
on that
go
other-
on the parcels 3 and 5, which are primarily the ones that front along the interstate, I don't know for sure at this point.
I just visualize it, I can understand what they're saying about it's such a wide area that you get on and off that interstate. There is a lot more space and land than any other interchange I've, seen in this area. But I do picture it, as it could be the landscaped as, say, like Budweiser, that you have those buildings. Is that what you're talking about? It's just that it's more for visibility, to be able to, more advertisement type thing, because these are the buildings and businesses in there. Is that what y'all looking
I
to do?
think that is part of it, but also because we do have that green space that's in that area. But I think the Budweiser is a good example of what I was trying to allude to earlier, that I don't want to suggest because we're relocating this buffer that you're not going to have, that we're not going to be, have to be compliant with all of the other requirements of setbacks and buffers and landscape areas like you see at Budweiser, which is a beautiful facility.
Correct.
That's a very nice facility. It looks good along the interstate, and that does not have, the 50-foot
Right.
buffer there, but it meets all the other requirements that would be, that we would have to comply with here.
Okay. I have been watching this fund. I think Jimmy and I have seen this from the beginning. And as anything, things do change and the way that we look at things. Especially, they may have planned for something to be in that area, but now it's something else. So I agree that if it turns out like that area, that it is some type of landscaping to where we're not looking at the back of loading docks, and I don't think that's what y'all intend for that property and stuff. I can understand wanting to, I agree with this, with the PUD change.
Thank you, Ms. Casbon. Anyone else? Mr. David? Jimmy?
Yes, I think your client's asking for the request for the major amendment to the PUD is just that. It's a major amendment to the PUD, just to add a couple of more uses.
Correct.
As far as the green space goes, I'm not that really interested in that section only because you're keeping the green space. And like you say, you have to have some sort of offset between, whether you get landscaping and things like that. I don't generally have a problem with this. I think it's appropriate for the area. I know this has been going on way too long, though. I mean, this is really ridiculous, to be honest. Since 2001 and stuff like that. But adding these 2 additional uses to this area, which is an excellent area for that, I'd like to make a motion to concur with the planning and zoning's recommendation to approve.
Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 5. I'm sorry, ma'am. Oh, yeah, we need a motion and a second for that. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Stefanczyk. Thank you. I keep forgetting about that ordinance. All right, number 5. Eric Penton appealing the zoning commission denial on June 24, 2020 to rezone 1.3 acres located on the east side of Blueberry Loop, north of Archie Singletary Road, Pearl River, from A-2 Suburban District, MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, and RO Rural Overlay to A-3 Suburban District, MHO Manufacturing Housing and Rural Overlay, Ward 6, District 6. Ms. Tanner, is Mr. Penton here? Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. I have 2. 1. Yes, ma'am, I have 1. Mr. Eric Penton?
Good evening.
Please
Eric
sta-
Penton.
Please state your name, sir. Hold on one second, Mr. Penton. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'm going to be real brief with it.
Please state your name first,
I
please.
did.
All
Eric
right.
Penton. I'm going to be real brief with it. Bought the property as an investment, going to put some rentals on it. Came to the parish before I purchased it, before I bought it. Went into the people, said, this is what I have. We don't see an issue with it. Spent my money. So then when we get to the planning and zoning said, well, Helen with the parish decided that it wasn't a good idea, so we're going to defer it to the council. So that's where we're at. Bottom line of it is, I got bigger fish to fry. I don't care if you approve it or not. The reason I'm here tonight is because the person that is opposing this publicly accused me of trying to steal their property. I'm an honest businessman, and you can tell it really bothers me, okay? If you approve it, fine. If you don't approve it, fine. But when you attack my integrity publicly, I'm going to defend it, okay? And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Patricia and Janet Fisher? Take your time, sir.
Good evening. I'm Pat Fisher, and this is my wife Janet. We're opposing the change. We don't want, it just can't go through. The law states that we have to have storm drains, city water, and sewage before that lot can be subdivided. And I don't know who's accusing him of stealing his land or whatever, but he's only got 4/10 of an acre. It's 300 by 60 or something like that. I don't know, 200 by 60. So he doesn't have the land. The people behind him own it. So I don't know.
The original plat says the State Board of Health requires that no more than one principal residence be constructed upon each lot, and lots shall not be
Please
further-
speak into the mic a little bit,
Lots
ma'am.
be
Just
fur-
pull it towards you, ma'am. It'll come down. Thank you.
All right, I'm not used to that, I'm sorry. The Louisiana State Board of Health requires that no more than one principal residence be constructed upon each lot. This is the original plat in 1965. The neighbor that says has got part of the property, whatever that is, he purchased property. I have a deed in 2017, and in that deed, it says, Exhibit A specifies the same restriction for this subdivision. And there will be a central sewage system be installed to meet minimum requirements. The foregoing are covenants with each title. So our question is, for him to subdivide, we'll have to have public sewage, and who's going to pay for that? The parish is going to have to do that because the chain of title says one residence per lot.
Per acre is a minimum lot
Well,
size.
per lot, yeah, it was whatever. And that goes, like I say, that was in 1965 was the original plat, and then currently the other owners bought it in 2017, and it's still in the chain of title. So we understand that it's still in the records that the Board of Health requires that. So that's why we live in, it's a nice area, it's a nice homes, and we just, I don't think we need all that mobile homes, and that's why we're here to appeal the decision, so. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Penton, would you like, yes, sir.
How you doing?
Yes, sir.
I brought a plot.
Yes, sir.
It's 300 foot of road frontage. We heard in Mr. Eric in the third one, the third case, clearly said 75 feet, 90 feet. I've built over 300 houses in this parish, so I'm a little bit experienced in this. So I would never have brought this to you guys without it. I got pictures of double mobile homes on this same street. I got pictures of multiple buildings on this street. I have pictures of a commercial building on this street with a residence. So, you want to see them?
Maureen.
And
Yes,
like I
sir.
say, I mean, it really doesn't matter to me. If they feel that I'm going to tear their neighborhood down, I'm okay. I'll put one house on it. I don't have to have that. But I would have liked to have had a little bit of courtesy in them calling me and letting me know they had opposition, then getting me up in front of the zoning committee and tell the zoning committee that I was stealing their property.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I understand. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Mr. and Ms. Fisher, take your time. Take your time, ma'am. Take your time. There's no hurry.
Number one, we did not say he's stealing our property. I'm on the corner, the lot is right next door. It's the people on the other side that the property is in question. And the only reason we said that was when the owner that's in there now, Kevin and Star Riles, when they purchased the property from Eugene and Susie McGee, they had a survey done for Jim Walter Homes to build that house. I was not able to get a copy of the survey because I don't know who the surveyor was to verify where the section is. That's our concern, but, that's between him and the other couple that own the property. Our concern is the sewage and the drainage, and, one house is fine. It strictly states one residence, so that's why we're opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Tanner.
I just received some word on this afternoon, nothing from the opposition. So I am going to ask that we table this and let me look at it and get with planning.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Tanner to table and second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote. Thank you. Mr. Davis, I'm sorry, did you want to say something on that? Yes, sir, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can Mr. Tanner come up here again? Or Mr. Penton, sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Penton.
Yes, sir.
So the issue with this is just merely an increase in density. You're asking from A2 to A3. That's all it is. But how many manufactured homes were you intending on building on this one point?
You could only do two, which would be, there would be 150 by 200 foot lots.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And if you want to subdivide it and me build conventional homes, I'm not opposed to that. I'll build
Okay.
conventional homes.
I just wanted to know how many homes you were intending to build. That way, Ms. Tanner can go ahead and assist you with that later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll go to number 6. Don Hayes appealing the zoning commission denial on June 23rd, 2020 to rezone 0.85 acres located on the south side of Titus Smith Road, east of Old Keller Road, Lacombe from A-2 Suburban District to A-2 Suburban District and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, Ward 6, District 6. Mr. Hayes?
It's District 11.
Good evening. I'm here to
ask for,
Hold on one second,
Oh,
sir.
sorry.
I'm sorry. Would you please state your name for me, sir?
My
And
name is Don
address?
Hayes.
And address.
I live on Titus Smith Road, and I'm here to ask for a waiver or what do you call it? Anyway, some leeway here to put a manufactured home or a trailer on my property. I own two pieces of property side by side, they're adjacent. It totals 1.34 acres, I believe, but the purpose of it is on humanitarian grounds or hardship grounds for my son, who's just started a family, to have, live next to us. And so we we take care of his young family. He has a 3-year-old and a 20-day-old baby. We take care of their kids, and they help us with the maintenance of the house and everything that I live in. And Titus Smith Road is a dead-end road off of Old Keller Road, which is named after my great-grandfather, is a dead-end road off of Highway 434. It is 0.85 acres, but together the two parcels are more than an acre, and I think it was unfair that I'm required to have a full acre when not far from me, they building, 1,800 square foot homes on a 50 by 75 foot lot. I don't see how you can justify that. And that's all I'm asking is to put this manufactured home or trailer on the property. I was asked during the zoning commission council meeting, why don't I just build a stick home on there? And I don't want a stick home on there. I want something temporary, because it's not going to stay there. It's just providing a place for my son to get started. And I own the property. I own that property since 2002. And my original house was my grandmother's old place that I inherited in 1981, I believe. And I lived on that property in 1958 when I attended Lacombe elementary school. So I've been out there for a long time. There's one point that the man that came around for the zoning commission said he drove down my street, but he didn't see any mobile homes. Well, Mr. Frank Gattuso, he has a mobile home on his lot, on his property, and all the way at the end down there, there's a abandoned house that has a mobile home on that property also. And I'm not going to put anything like that there. They're looking at buying a new manufactured house to put there, and all I'm doing is providing the spot for them. And another thing is, what I want to say, there's only 8 families right now that live on Titus Smith Road, and there's 6 families that live on Old Keller Road. So that's all I'm asking for, is nobody objected. They had one neighbor, he made a request that I try and clean up my property,
And that's regard to my grandmother's old house, what's left of it, that is still in my front yard that I use for storage. Nobody lives there. If nobody has ever lived in it since 82, I believe. And that's all I'm asking. I'm asking for a variance or a waiver, whatever, to put this here so we can keep the family together and take care of one another. It's no money-making scheme or scheme. You know, this is all about family and helping family members, helping one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Michael O'Brien?
My name's Mike O'Brien. I live on Old Keller Road. I'm here to represent some of my neighbors that are here and some that couldn't get in due to COVID. And I also have a petition here signed by a bunch of the neighbors asking that not to allow any trailers in the area due to decreased value of our homes. I mean, we all have, you know, most of the homes there are on 5 acres, and, you know, we work hard to keep our houses up. And we don't believe mobile homes is a way to keep our property values up. You know, I mean, and that's all, you know.
You wanna share those with us?
Yes.
And we can keep them? Ashley or somebody, would you get those for me? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hayes, would you like 3 minutes, sir?
Is this an objection to my putting that mobile home there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, then how come he didn't raise the objection in his letter at the council meeting? All he said was, and I didn't get access to read his letter. All I was told was he didn't object. He just wanted me to clean up my property. And why don't you tell me that,
Excuse me,
my
sir.
face, Mike.
Excuse me, sir. Please just address us on it.
now,
Go ahead.
I get along with
Take your
everybody. I do things for everybody out there. We all try to get along, stay out of each other's business, and we help each other out. And he previously told me that he didn't have a problem with it, and all of a sudden he changed his mind. Well, you know, I understand you can change your mind, but you know, this is not going to be downgrading his property. As a matter of fact, that house that he lives in, I helped build that house 12 years when I was 12 years old. So he hasn't been out there that long, you know, and that's all I got to say. I mean, you know, I don't understand why he's doing this, but
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
thank you.
Mr. O'Brien?
I'm not doing anything to upset Mr. Hayes. We used to be best of friends, and I hope we still are after this. This has nothing to do with my relationship with him. It's just that I've talked to a lot of people in the neighborhood, and you can see by the list of people that signed it, you know, they all moved out there with the fact knowing there was going to be no trailers allowed in the area. I mean, that's a fact. And now they want to put trailers in. If you start one, then you're going to get more. And we prefer not to have any trailers. Nothing against him or his family. You know, it's just, we don't want trailers in the area. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stefanczyk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spent quite a bit of time out there. When Kurt Drum went out there for the zoning commission, I guess, and looked at it, and he talked to a few people out there, and then they told him they didn't want it. I went out and looked at it because I felt like it's out in the country, way out in the country, by the way. And then when I drove down Old Keller Road and down Titus Smith Road, there's an awful lot of very, very nice homes out there built. A couple of them are trailers, a couple of them are modular homes, but they're built up to look like homes, not so much like trailers. The only trailer that I really saw out there that became an eyesore was directly across the street from Mr. Hayes, and I need to get code enforcement out there to get that thing moved, cleaned up, torn up, whatever it needs to be done, because it's an eyesore to the whole community. I did spend some time talking to the neighbors. I just went around, I didn't talk to everybody. Mr. Hayes, I want to tell you, I know that you talked to him, and everybody out there says, man, the guy would give you anything. But they also said that they don't want to upset you, but they also don't want a trailer there. And I feel like with the homes that are around there, I just can't support a trailer going in there. And so that's where I'm coming from. So I would move that we, unless somebody else wants to talk?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Huh? Oh, okay. I move that we concur with the zoning commission's denial.
Motion by Mr. Stefanski, second by Ms. O'Brien to concur. Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. And I need an introduction of adoption of a resolution, I see, huh? So do I have a motion by Mr. Stefanski, second by Mr. Bender? Thank you. Please vote.
And the motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
Thank you. Number 7, Jeff Shane, appealing the zoning commission denial on June 23rd, 2020 to rezone 47.43 acres located on the west side of Carroll Road and south of Devon Drive and north of Facasa Street, Slidell, A-3, Suburban District to A-4, Single Family Residential District, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Mr. Shane, I'm sorry, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lorino, if I could, well, first for the record, Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent CKB Development LLC, the petitioner. I think it would be wise for the council to consider combining cases 7 and 8, their companion cases.
Yes, sir.
And I assume, do you need to read that into the record in order for us to do that?
I will, motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Ms. O'Brien. All in favor with combining 7 and 8? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous
So
with
now
2
you have-
absent.
Now you have 2, Mr. Shane. You go right ahead. Save us a little time.
So what I'd like to do, Mr. Chair and Honorable Council, for the sake of efficiency, if I would request that the council postpone both cases this evening and that they be postponed until September 23rd. The specific reason for and the 23rd, as I appreciate it, will be a night that you have dedicated for the hearing of appeals.
That is correct.
And that would be 4 weeks from tonight, which would give you, staff, and the public further opportunity to consider a substitute PUD plan which I will circulate this evening to the council and to staff. And also, I have brought copies of the substitute plan for those in the audience that would like to see it. With that having been said, I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time in the event the case is not postponed, and I need to speak to you about the merits of the case. So the request would simply be that 7 and 8 be postponed till September 23rd, and that I do have a substitute PUD plan that I am not formally asking to go into the record tonight, but informally I will give it to each and every one on both sides of the banister so that we can review, study. Hopefully we can get staff review of that plan as well, and then come back on the 23rd to hear both cases.
Okay. We have a request there to postpone. Mr. Bender, I have some cards in opposition. I'm going to leave that up to you. If, you know, I hate to have people come to the council meeting and then not be able to vote. I've always said that. I mean,
No.
speak. So, I mean, I don't know what you want to do, so I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Mr. Chairman. The people have come tonight, and when I get to the matter of a request to postpone, I will make everyone, the council, the public, everyone in the room aware of two important items which I'm receiving for the first time late this afternoon and early this evening. And I'll go into that, but I would like the people to have an opportunity to at least voice their views.
And I agree. Before we go to that, Jeff, would you like to, I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to speak on it if you wish, but I'm going to leave it, as I said, I think people, you know, deserve the right to
Yes,
speak
sir, I
on it.
understand that.
Yes, sir.
If we're going to postpone this,
Yes, sir.
let's postpone it. If you want to give the people a few minutes to come up and speak, let them speak, but it makes absolutely no sense to play it out and then say, oh, no, all of a sudden, I'm not going to postpone. If we're going to
Okay.
postpone it or not.
Okay. Mr. Bender?
And
Mr. Bender?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I understand my colleagues' point of view, I do, and perhaps I have other colleagues who feel the same way. I always try to act in an abundance of courtesy, and I'm not, let me just say this. Mr. Canulet makes a good point in that if the postponement occurs, then September 23rd would be a full hearing, assuming that it moves along to September the 23rd. If it is not postponed tonight, then Mr. Shane will have a full hearing of this, and any opposition from the public will have a full hearing. I would say, Mr. Chairman, just with courtesy, I would ask anyone that would like to speak, if you would limit it to a brief period, because if the postponement doesn't pass, you want to have your own time left, okay? And Mr. Shane would want to have his own time left. And I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm accurate on the way I'm describing that. If we do a full-blown discussion tonight, before any vote on a postponement, and that doesn't pass, then our time, I believe, has been used up before we even vote on the postponement. So I would ask just for a courtesy opportunity for whoever would like to make comments to be brief if possible.
Okay. Mr. Bender, and I can't disagree with you, but I'm going to let you know about what legal said. If you make a motion and there's a second and we do that, if someone wants to speak on it, it can be only on the topic of whether or not to postpone.
To postpone.
So actually, the ladies and gentlemen that are on the card would not be able to talk about the issue. I know it's unfortunate, but it is what it is as I'm sitting here right now.
Well, and obviously, Mr. Chairman, I respect legal's opinion.
Yes, sir.
And I will go along with that opinion. It does make sense to me, in a sense that we would have a motion and a second to postpone. It should be just on postponement.
Okay,
So I am going to make a motion to postpone.
Okay.
Once people want to comment, I will then explain the two issues that lead me to make this motion.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien to postpone. All in favor of that?
Yeah, you got to ask them to speak first.
No, that's what I just said, Steve. They cannot, they cannot talk on the merit. They can ask about not to postpone or not, and I can do that. Yes, sir.
Postpone, so that should be before the vote.
I mean, yes. So, Mr. Sharon Newton, Jeff, I'm just going to talk to these people whether or not we have a motion and a second to postpone.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, go ahead. If you want to hear this, I'll hear it. Go ahead.
Well, listen,
You can
I
talk
don't
on whether or not to
understand.
postpone.
I'm gonna wait till you tell me it's my turn to talk.
You come on, you come on. You had the podium.
You ask us to play by the rules and the laws of the parish. I come before you, and I'm having a hard time after having done this for 42 years, trying to figure out what you're directing me and the residents to do.
Okay.
Now I'm being told, because I came up and asked for a postponement, I can't speak.
No, you can speak.
Well, perhaps I misunderstood,
Yeah.
that I cannot speak unless I guess I want to speak in favor of the postponement.
No.
Well, then I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said.
You have the right, to speak. You have 7 minutes and 15 seconds left. You have every right to continue that. All I'm saying is, your motion to postpone, Mr. Bender made the motion, and there's a second to that, okay?
Yes, sir.
The issue is, we have constituents that have come, and it would be unfair to you to have them come and talk about it and not have you present your case. You follow? Am I correct on that?
Fully follow.
Okay, so therefore, under the decency of allowing people to come speak at the mic and say, I'm not in favor of postponing, has nothing to do with this case, period. I'm not in favor of postponing. We listen to them, and then we take our vote on postponing. If we do not postpone, we pick it up right where we left off, and you start from 7 minutes and 14 seconds and make the rest of your case. The only difference is we're giving the constituents a chance to come up and just say they're in favor of postponing it, it's okay, it's not. They may not even come up. I just want to give them the right to come up and say something if they're there. That's the answer to that. And if you can agree with me, but disagree with me, but that's.
May I speak?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay. I understood that when there was a motion for postponement, that it took precedent, and I didn't think. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad to know that there's one thing that's consistent tonight with what I've been observing for an awful long time. I've got to tell you, there's been some pretty bizarre things this evening, but maybe bizarre is good, because 2020 has been bizarre. So why wouldn't it continue tonight? And I say that with levity. We should all agree.
I agree.
My point was simply, and I apologize if I misunderstood.
No, you're fine.
No, but if I misunderstood what you said, I didn't think I was going to have an opportunity to speak as well with regard to the postponement. And I would like to speak.
Yes, sir, that's what I said.
With regard to the postponement, just like I really want to hear what the others have to say.
Well,
I'm by no means
absolutely.
dismayed about everybody talking about postponement.
Postpone, that's it. We're not talking about the issue.
So, if you agree, why don't we proceed?
I agree, yeah.
Why do I want to talk about postponement? Well, my client filed this case on or about February the 10th. And I want you to know that in some form or fashion, it's been postponed 4 times already. without the request of the petitioner. And you say, how so? Well, the April and May zoning commission meetings were lost due to the COVID crisis, and understandably so. The June 2nd meeting was postponed or not set until June 23rd. And that again was due to the COVID crisis. No criticism on me as it relates to why these meetings were postponed. The August 4th appeal hearing for this case was likewise postponed. No one's particular fault. We all know, I think, that there was an advertisement problem by the publisher, not by anything the parish did. So my point that I wanted to make this evening is that based on the resounding statement made by the zoning commission with regard to this case, my client decided to listen to the zoning commission and the people and come up with a new design. And in order to be fair to everyone, I thought it would be better to postpone tonight, present to you, present to staff for study and review. And I went to Mr. Domingue, who is certainly one, if not, he's one of some of those that are here to speak tonight. I wanted him to know before the meeting that I intended to request postponement, and I was going to give him a copy of the new plan. So for those reasons, I hope that you will consider postponing.
I totally, Jeff? I totally agree with you, and as you know, we didn't have anything to do with all those other postpones, and as you eloquently said. And my issue is what I mentioned earlier. When people come and sit here, I like to at least give them a chance. And
I agree.
And I appreciate that. And Mr. Sharon Newton?
Mr. Lorino,
Yes, ma'am.
our legal, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If this is a new plan, Jeff, Mr. Shane, you're saying this is a new plan? Would the planning commission have to go back over this? Are we at that? I haven't been on this council to be presented a plan that was changed, so.
May I answer?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but this plan has not been formally brought into the proceeding tonight because the proceeding is being postponed.
Okay.
I am providing the plan as a courtesy to the council, to the staff and administration, and to the residents that have interest so that they will be familiar with what my client would like to pursue.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Mr. Shane, I too believe that everybody should be aware of what's going on, and I appreciate you coming up with a different plan here, especially with the number of lots and everything like that, and also being able to discuss this with the staff and everything. But I agree with Ms. Martha too, and all the years that I've been on the planning and zoning, that this should be actually presented and gone back to the planning and zoning before it comes back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May I respond to that?
Yes, sir.
Well, I
asked
believe
a question.
that the rules that I was advised with regard to a PUD case in Mr. Toledano's district a few months ago, I was told that the case could not be remanded to the zoning commission when it came to you on appeal. So, well, no, but that's what
Well, I think Jimmy
the
misunderstood.
position that the council took, presumably upon advice of legal counsel. So I don't believe,
Yes, Ms.
See, we're new
Carl.
to this.
Can we bring this back to the planning and zoning after this new PUD development is seen?
Call in.
No. Emily.
Call in. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Emily. Thank you, dear.
We did look into that issue before, and it was legal's advice that the council can concur or override the zoning commission, but cannot remand a case back, and there was case law supporting that decision. That was different, though, because the question was remand. The question tonight is, can the council consider a new PUD plan? Would that be an amendment? And that's something that I discussed with Mr. Bender, and I'm looking, and I have not yet formalized an opinion, and I'm looking into that.
So the postponement will actually be the best thing to do because of that.
Yeah, we should stop
Yes.
talking about it, because everything we're talking about is a legal record, and we don't know what we're talking about.
Mr. Bender?
For the benefit of everyone, okay? Legal also, in that, I've read the document, okay, in the case that Mr. Shane is referring to, okay? And legal's opinion to us was they can concur, they can deny, or they can postpone, okay? That's a legal document it was requested by Mr. Liner earlier this year, and it was provided by legal exactly with that terminology, because it was given to me. Let me say at this point in time to everyone, okay? This here, okay, which I haven't opened yet, I'm receiving this tonight at the same time that every council member is receiving this, at the same time planning and development is receiving this, okay? And at the same time, the citizens are receiving this. The only thing that I was aware of in relation to this, and I'm going to have to study it, as I'm sure everyone else will, was that the developers were considering the possibility. They were trying to determine financially if it was feasible, which that's their issue. That's not my issue. They were considering providing some type of revision to this, and I'm assuming that this is what we're being handed tonight. So that would tell me that this isn't being handed to us tonight unless Mr. Shane's clients have agreed to submit this, Mr. Shane, for us to review. Okay. So everybody just needs to know. This I have just received, like you all. In addition, though, from the opposition, this I also just received. And it contains a 4-page letter and another 7-page document, which was hand-delivered this afternoon to the council office. And I've had an opportunity to read a few of the paragraphs in the letter. But certainly, I understand the points that are being made, but I can't dissect everything in these two documents and be fair to the person who wrote to me. And this happens to be the landowner adjacent to this property. So, for reasons on both sides, I am agreeing that it's prudent that we postpone. And we've gotten the motion. And, Mr. Chairman, you just tell me what you want to proceed on next with this. Just let me know how you want to proceed.
Mine, I understand the motion is second, and I may have messed it up by allowing people to come and say something, okay? That's me, but that's just the way that I think. So all we did was delay it a little bit longer, because I'm sure they would have came up and said, we're not in postponement, or we for postponement.
Right.
It's very fast and very quick. It's
And I
not
agree with
talking
that.
on the subject, okay?
Mr. Chairman.
So that's the issue, that why
Mr.
I
Chairman?
said, so go ahead.
Could I say this to you? I support what you offer.
Oh, no, I know.
And actually, without me saying it, I also agree with legal that the motion is to postpone. Therefore, as Mr. Canula has pointed out, as far as a time frame, what we can hear from people that are here tonight to speak is, are you in favor of the postponement? And give us time, us, to read this and look at it over fully, and for me, at a minimum, me, but I guarantee I'll be sharing it with my colleagues, to read 2 documents from the landowner right next to this property that I've not fully been able to read yet, okay?
Thank you.
Anyone wants to come and talk about the postponement, I'm fine with that.
Yes, sir, Chris, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Toledano. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you.
Follow the rules, the Robert Rules of Order, how we're supposed to do it.
I'm following, I'm
Let me
totally with
finish,
you.
let me finish.
I'm gonna make it easy.
After, y'all all came out. As soon as we can go, I am staying, I will come meet with y'all. Y'all can tell us anything you want. This is a procedure thing. It's how it's supposed to work. When you make postponements and tables, you're not supposed to discuss
Gotcha.
the items.
Okay, I'm fine with that. You're absolutely right, Chris. And as I said, we have a motion and a second to postpone. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, baby?
Mike,
Okay, that's fine.
Correct.
Okay. I thought so. But
if you don't mind, Mr.
Go ahead,
Burnell,
go ahead.
thank you very much.
Now, Chris.
I've listened to the brief discussion tonight, most of which wasn't relevant to the question at all. In fact, it's almost like you lose sight of,
That's what I'm telling
you lose sight of the question. In all fairness to both parties, I'm going to call for the question on the motion for postponement.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Racket, you can't, the legal said, as I'm going to follow legal, that they have a right to come speak on the postponement issue only. Am I correct, legal?
Well,
Mr. Chairman.
I disagree with that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I would remind my colleague, Mr. Toledano, that he has every right to speak.
Right.
But while he's an attorney, he's not our attorney at this meeting.
Right.
And the attorney just came up to you and said they have a right to speak their view on the postponement. Mr. Toledano, you can shake your head all you want.
Okay, Jerry, we have it. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to move forward, Racket, I'm going to move forward with what I said. Ms. Sharon Newton, please come forward. Ma'am, we're speaking on the postponement
Yes, sir.
only, not the subject.
I'm Sharon Newton from Slidell 35140 Garden Drive. I'm giving my time to Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Domingue.
Oh, excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry before I get myself in trouble again. I just put it on. Go ahead. real
Sharon
fast.
Newton, 35140 Garden Drive, and I'm giving my time to Dr. Domingue.
Yes, ma'am. Sir?
Good evening. I'm Lee Domingue. I live on 34057 Bayou Liberty Road. I currently serve as president of the Bayou Liberty Association. We do not oppose a postponement of this project discussion. What we are concerned about is if there is an appeal from zoning commission, a zoning commission decision, and we are postponing this project discussion from the council, or are we going to be discussing a new project on September 23rd, or do we have to discuss the actual appeal that occurred because the zoning commission initially denied the project that was originally presented to them?
Okay. And so you have no problem with postponing it tonight?
I do not.
Okay, so thank you very much. Mr. Jimmy?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think I'm as confused as everybody else
That's
is
it.
down here.
Go ahead.
But as far as postponement goes, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Good.
But I agree with Mr. Domingue that I'm not sure where we are when we get here on September 23rd.
Where we are, we're postponing it, and this will be discussed again as it was presented tonight, on September 23rd. It's being postponed. It has not been amended, has not had anything to do. We will be discussing it as you see it tonight.
Thank you, sir. I understand that. But the documents that were handed out today are not entered into the record.
I haven't looked at a document
No.
right now. It's sitting right there, and I'm not going to look at any, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
We're gonna,
Thank you for
okay,
your
thank
time.
you. Kevin? Mr. McDonald?
First of all, I'd like to apologize for you not getting the letters sooner.
It's okay,
But
sir.
they were closed Monday. My
Yes, sir.
wife brought them today as quick as she could.
Sure.
So apologize to you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Denby.
Thank you.
That's about, I have no objection to postponing.
Thank you.
But it appears to me, well, I don't want to get in a big
We're
topic
not
discussion.
gonna get into the other things, yes, sir.
No, no. But is this going to be a redesign, so it's going to go back?
This is gonna be discussed as it
Okay,
was
I'll let
tonight.
it go there. That's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We had a motion and a second by Mr. Bender, I believe it was. A motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote on postponing to the September 23rd meeting. Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. I'll be happy to talk to. Number 9, Lori Ann Medevere and Vicki Lynn M. Cleland appealing the zoning commission denial on June 23rd, 2020 to rezone 2.0 acres located on southwest corner of Gerald Road and Louisiana Highway 1129, being 19684 Gerald Road, Covington, A-1A Suburban District, MO Manufactured Housing Overlay and RO Overlay, to A-2 Suburban District, MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay and Road Overlay, Ward 2, District 2. Okay, Ms. Medevere, yes, ma'am.
Hello, how y'all doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good, I'm Laurie Mativier,
Nice to meet you.
and,
Oh, excuse me one second, Laura. Go ahead, babe.
so, you know, what we're trying to ask for is, we have 2 acres, on a corner of Gerald Road and Lee Road, or 1129. We originally had 3 acres, so we already sold 1 acre. So there's a 1 acre piece of property, and then our 2 acres. We were trying to split that other acre in half, other 2 acres in half. I understand that some of y'all's concerns were that possibility we would want to be putting a trailer or mobile home there. But we have on our purchase agreement, or whatever you want to call it, deed, no trailers or mobile homes on that whole 20 acres that were on that corner. And so that's already said as a rule that you can't do that. So we are just wanting, we're trying to split that because one day down the line, maybe like to build a smaller house back there and move back there instead. And that's really about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Okay. That's all we have. We don't have anyone in opposition. David?
We've looked at this, I've looked at this carefully over the past couple of months, and they're on the corner of Lee Road, basically 1129, where it turns to 1129 and Gerald Road. If there was ever going to be an increase in density, and I know the Planning and Zoning Commission recently and generally all along don't like unscheduled density increases in A1 zoned areas. There's a couple of spots in the area that are basically A2 already. And this particular location, if there was ever going to be an increase in density right there on the corner of 2 roads, that would be the least obtrusive thing that to increase density. It's not like they're going out down the road in a rural area in the middle of a large A1 pasture and and trying to divide it into 1 acre plots. So based on that, and in concurrence with the surrounding neighbors that we've contacted all with no opposition, I move that we overturn the denial and just overturn the denial.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Toledano to override the denial, zoning denial. All in favor? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 3 absent.
And I need a motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Mr. Fitzgerald to introduction. Thank you.
Easiest case y'all had tonight?
Because nobody called.
I need a motion, and a motion by Mr. Canulet, second by Ms. O'Brien to adjourn. We have another one? I have one more? Wow. Steve, you got one more? Wow. I don't have it on mine. I got it now. Okay, I got it. All righty, number 10, Cheryl Goodwin, appealing the zoning commission denial on July 7th, 2020, to rezone 1.03 acres located on northwest corner of Spruce Lane and K Drive, Lacombe, from A-3 Suburban District to A-3 Suburban District and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay, Ward 7, District 11. Ms. Goodwin?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
good evening. The reason why I am appealing this is because at the zoning board meeting, it was a 6-5 vote. And at that time, it was, according to the planning, they was considering not to oppose it. And so from one vote kind of held us up. This is in Pine Grove subdivision, which is next to Briar Lake. These are 1 acre lot subdivision. I've owned this lot since 1980, 40 years ago. And this particular property has had a mobile home on it. And the neighborhood is predominantly mobile homes. There's a few Jim Walker homes in the neighborhood. There's 23 mobile homes in Pine Grove and 16 houses. One of the lots has a mobile home and a house, a Jim Walker house. There's only about 3 or 4 houses in that neighborhood that have been built in the past 10 years, stick homes. This is not a desirable neighborhood. It would never be a Magnolia Forest, a Quail Ridge, Lacombe Harbor, or Briar Lake because of the amount of mobile homes in that particular neighborhood. I don't know how the zoning got changed from mobile homes to manufactured homes to not having manufactured homes. I don't know if that was something the council district, I think Mr. Stefanczyk, it's in his district, he changed, or if it was something the parish did on a blanket zoning. I don't really know how it got changed, but I know that was the case when I purchased it. I understand the adjacent neighbor has lived there. He had a house built there. Well, he said he had a mobile home there. In his own words, he said he saved his pennies, and then he put it a stick home. And that home is approximately 40 years old. It sits behind a 6-foot privacy fence all the way around it, and it has not been well maintained. There's some of the other people in the neighborhood who are concerned about a new mobile manufactured home going in there, bringing down the value of their home. A manufactured home is not considered in an appraisal with a stick house. You go within a 5-mile district, you find something in likeness of that house, most likeness in the last 6 months that it was sold. If you can't find it in the 5-mile radius, you go outside of it, but you don't pull up 3 mobile homes and compare it to a stick-built house and come up with an appraisal. The only way a mobile home would devalue somebody else's property is if any particular buyer, it may be less desirable for a buyer, but it's not devalued. That is pretty much the opposition. Actually, right around the corner, there's a plywood-built house with a burnt-out window, to give you an idea, if no one has ever traveled into this neighborhood, of what it's like. So this truly is not a desirable neighborhood, and a brand-new manufactured home could look even better than a 40-year-old house that is not well-maintained in that neighborhood. Doesn't have to be an eyesore just because it's a manufactured home. I don't know if you've seen some of the newer manufactured homes that they're producing now. And like I said, it's around these type of homes, so it would be very similar, since the predominant amount of homes are mobile homes in Pine Grove subdivision. Thank you. I would like for all of y'all to vote for it so we can go home tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ronald Hereford?
Yes.
Ronald?
Yes.
How you doing? Please come up and say your name, please.
How you doing? My name is Ron Hereford. I'm 60306 East Spruce. Take a right from the corner where she's talking. This lady is extremely misinformed about a bunch of issues. There are 31 houses in this neighborhood, including mine, that I paid $42,500 for my lot. And I built a raised Creole cottage. I'm in the 240 range. There are other houses in my neighborhood that are equally as much of a value. Especially, thank you God, someone is pouring a big slab in the back. They are going to put a big, beautiful brick home up there. The last houses built in the neighborhood are brick homes, okay? I do want to agree with Ms. Goodwin on one issue, is that the most astonishing thing from the last meeting was that it came to a 6-5 vote. The vote should have been 50-0, because she's here representing herself. We're an entire community representing ourselves. Everyone couldn't be here tonight. We have papers signed. We have everything we could have did. I am really worked up over this no chance for our neighborhood to do something. I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to stand for that. I am too worked up. Okay. A certain councilman in the last meeting, which may have caused that 6-5 vote, stood up and said he's
not a councilman, sir.
Well,
He's a
whatever. He
planning
is
and
very
zoning.
familiar with that neighborhood.
Planning and
And he
zoning.
claimed that there's 60% mobile homes anyways. Well, excuse me, there's not. Very, very lenient. I've been around and around and around and around that neighborhood since this last meeting. Okay, very, very lenient count against the houses, a very, very kind count toward the trailers and the double wides or whatever. There's 27 of those total, and there's 31 homes. I'm highly, highly offended by that last speech. Okay, and this is St. Tammany Parish, a progressive parish, building a tax base, and we're going to be told that a motor home is not going to devaluate our property. It's not going to devaluate our property unless she gets an ordinance change. That's from 2010. She gets an ordinance change and then does what? Subdivides, puts 2 of them and rents them out? We want to know our neighbors. We want to know our neighbors. We don't meet some new neighbors every 3 months. I apologize for my emotion. And my other part of my list is to stress, yes, the 6-5 vote floored me. I thought it would be without 11-1, 10-1. Please let me let someone else speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Alfred?
Hello. My name's Alfred Crumch. I lived at 60419 K Drive.
Thank you,
in
sir.
Spruce. Don't let anyone tell you this isn't a desirable subdivision. Me and my wife worked all our lives, and I think we are the newest residents of that subdivision. And we built the home over $200,000. We spent building it out of brick home. And we looked all over St. Tammany. That's where we decided we wanted to build. And we built in 2007. We bought the lot in 2017. We started building in 2018 and moved in that same year. And before we bought that lot, we did check the zoning restrictions, and they said that any new people, new residents, would have to build a home. There'd be no trailers, mobile homes in after that. And based on that decision, that's where we wanted to build our retirement home, our last home. We want our home to hold its value. We want it to appreciate in value as the years pass. We want our subdivision to appreciate as years go on. So I urge you and ask you to please uphold your decision of denial. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Glenn Ruiz?
Sir.
How you doing, sir?
All right. Doing fine. Thank you. And would someone give these? All right, I'm the one who sent out an email to the councilman with a map of the land. And the house that this lady referred to is with a wooden fence around it. It's not mine. Okay? You can tell that I'm upset with all of this. Yes, I've been there 43 years, okay? And if you take a look at the picture that you're going to get, and you already, I sent this weeks ago to you. I'm the one that has all the black that you see there, outlined in black. That's my property, and I have a home on there. And we just have it refurbished, the whole thing, okay? Now, let me continue. I'm not the only one who feels this way about K Drive and so forth. Look at all these people, and you got one person against all of these people here who live in Pine Grove who are against having a mobile home come in here. Let me continue, please. Proposal 2020-1844 ZC is the beginning of a cancer. If this proposal is approved, a precedent will be set, and it will be most difficult to stop others from doing the same. Property values will continue to go down. We do not want to go back to the pre-2010 zoning regulations. We want to move forward. The current zoning regulations are great and are working. And this gentleman here about the new house, that's wonderful. It was just completed, 60419 on K Drive. And I'm thrilled to say also that was brought out that we have another house being constructed at 31039 Torres. Please keep in mind that if this proposal is approved, the only one who benefits is the petitioner. That's the only one. The property values of the homeowners in Pine Grove will drop. It is simply not fair to make an exception for a petitioner when the petitioner is the only one who benefits, and those benefits come at the expense of the homeowners. If you deny this proposal, then our property values will continue to grow, especially with the new houses being built. People will be encouraged to continue to build houses in Pine Grove if they see the parish council backing up the current regulations. We need you to stand by us. Please choose to move St. Tammany Parish forward. Please do not let this cancer get started. Stop it now by voting against this proposal. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Michael Young?
I also live in an undesirable neighborhood, which is not true. I guess if you paint it with your colors, you could make it anything you want. I live in the back. I've been there over 30 years. My name is Michael Young in the back. There's 2 abandoned trailers in the subdivision. That is a start of what happens with a trailer. When people don't take care of it, it gets run down. There's wildlife in those properties. There's coyotes. There's fox from neighbors that live next door. And they've been there over 10 years with no one living in them. This is what we have with trailers, trying to make it better in our subdivision. So we're hoping you consider, and what she said is so wrong. Why would you build a new house? 2 people, if it's so undesirable. And this other house is going to spend everything that the last gentleman spent, 200 plus, promise you. I live in the back in a house too. And it's a quiet neighborhood. That's why we chose it. I think that wraps it up pretty much. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
This
Thank
is
you.
17 homeowners that do not want what she's trying to push through for one person. 17.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Goodwin, you have 3 minutes, ma'am, rebuttal.
Well, I'll just reiterate, my property's been there for 40 years. They've bought in that subdivision, and they chose to build homes with the mobile homes already there. One gentleman's math doesn't add up. He says there's 37 lots, but there was, he said 37 mobile homes, and the rest were houses, so that doesn't add up. I went there and I counted. There's exactly 23 mobile homes and 16 houses, and 1 lot has a house and a mobile home. And of the 16 houses, there are maybe 4 to 5 that have been built in the last 10 years. These people have chosen to come there and build a house in spite of all the vacant mobile homes, the burnt-out plywood home, and everything else. They're trying to say they want to live there. Well, they can, but they're living amongst mobile homes before they ever buy their lot. So what they're saying I'm trying to change is just the opposite. I'm saying they're changing what was already done 40 years ago. It was a mobile home dedicated subdivision. The parish changed. I don't know how that got changed. I don't know if it was changed because some people moved in and built homes and they wanted it changed. But it isn't fair to the people who have mobile homes. And by the way, just for the record, those mobile homes, if they pull them off within a year, another mobile home can come in there. So their hopes and dreams of 50 years down the road of this neighborhood being an all stick-built house with 200,000 plus homes is bleak. I hate to tell them that, but it's true. Especially with the, the fact that it started out with mobile homes. And I appreciate y'all hearing me. I know I'm the only one here that has bought this home 40 years ago, this lot 40 years ago, and still wanted to be zoned the way it was 40 years ago so I can continue to do what I planned on doing since I purchased it. And I appreciate y'all hearing me out today, and I can understand what they're saying, but their hopes and dreams should be, if they wanted to invest that kind of money, why wouldn't they invest it around a neighborhood that was all stick-built instead of a neighborhood that was more mobile homes than stick-built homes? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I don't, whoever, we have 3 minutes left. Whoever wants to come up, or Mr. Hartford, I think you started, so I'll start with you.
Yes, sir, we have a major difference in math ability to count. I don't even know where this is going to go. Anybody wants to take a ride with me? We'll go through the neighborhood and count them. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know about anybody's hopes and dreams, I don't really think that's why I did that. Really hopes and dreams weren't in there. Security, nice-looking trees, quiet. The hopes and dreams or whatever for Ms. Godwin, her business is to absolutely put rentals there. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. Who would help their family out by putting a trailer on an expensive lot? In 6 years, it's devaluated out to the point where you really stuck it to whoever you said you were helping them out. In the other meeting, it was over, her son gets to live in there. And so, please, she's delusional on the count.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Young?
We choose to improve the neighborhood, just like you did 10 years ago when you made this decision, no more trailers. That's all we want, to improve. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Alfred?
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that this is, we believe, our upcoming neighborhood. And like I said, my wife and I, career workers, we just retired not too long ago, and we look all over St. Tammany, and this is where we chose. It was very desirable for us. We love the people, the neighbors, and everybody wants to continue to make Pine Grove our upcoming neighborhood, and it's on its way because there is new construction going on as we speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ruiz, would you like to finish up? You have a minute left, sir.
And again, I want to remind you about setting a precedent. Once, if you go ahead and agree with this lady, you're setting a precedent, and it's going to make it easier for other people to come in and say, hey, we want to put a mobile home here too. And you've heard all of us saying, hey, look, we love this community, it's nice and quiet, it's beautiful, and this lady's statistics are inaccurate, but I certainly thank y'all for listening to us, and I certainly hope that you will stand by us and support the decisions that was made at 2010 for the, to keep St. Tammany moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stefanczyk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to clear something up and that was said by the appellant, and that is if they pull a trailer out of one of those lots today, you can't put another one on it. And that's what the zoning does for you. It says if you got A2 versus A2 with an HMO, you cannot take a trailer off of there and put another one on. If it burns down, you can't put another trailer on there. You can't put another mobile home, I should say. And that's a misnomer to a lot of people. They think that since a trailer was there before or a mobile home, they could put one on there. I was here in 2010 whenever that was all rezoned, and the neighborhood got together, and we had a couple of meetings there, I think with Mr. Page, was his name, the first house on the right, I think, going into subdivision, if I'm not mistaken. And the people did not want a trailer. And so what we did through the comprehensive rezoning is we rezoned it to A3, I believe is what it is, I'm sorry, A3, and made it all A3, but no mobile home overlays on it. And I think everybody understood that no matter what happens to one of the mobile homes there, they've got to be, they can't put another one on. Now, I went through the subdivision recently because I thought maybe there might have been some changes. I see some new homes being built, and what I see with many of the, and it's hard for me to tell when you go out and look at some of these homes, whether or not they're stick-built or whether or not they're mobile homes, because they built something around them or they put they put a trailer there, and it looks like a house today, if you look at it, and so it's there. I think that, Mrs. Godwin, I think you've called most of the councilmen. I never received a call from you, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to look at it from a standpoint of what I think is good for that community and what I think is good for the parish. And from my point of view, I look at Mr. Alford and say, thank you for coming to St. Tammany and building a new home. It's much better for us in the long run in your subdivision if you continue to do that. I see no compelling reason to change the zoning. And that's what I would ask my colleagues tonight, is to reject this appeal and not allow a mobile home to be placed in there. And I just want to point out 10 years ago, when it was brought up for the zoning at the time to change to a mobile home, I asked, I don't know, it was Miss Goodwin or Godwin or someone else who brought it up, but I asked them what they were going to do with it, and they said they were going to put a trailer in there and rent it. And that was the last thing that she probably should have ever said to me when you're talking about mobile homes in an area. I understand that may not be the case today, but I've never forgotten that. So with that in mind, I'd like to move to concur with the zoning commission's denial.
Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Canulette. All in favor? All right. Any
The
opposed?
motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Any opposed? We need a motion to adopt the resolution. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Thank you. All right, we have one, we have to vote?
Yep.
All in favor? All right.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
We have one off the floor item. I need it has to be a unanimous vote. All in favor of opening the floor? Off the floor? Thank you. Okay, we have a resolution to appoint 2 alternate members to the St. Tammany Parish Board of Zoning Adjustments. Mr. Taladano?
The vacancies that we presently have on that board. So that's what the motion is.
I don't have the names. I don't have. Ms. O'Brien?
Nominate Michael Blosh and Sean Daly.
Okay, Ms. O'Brien makes the motion for Michael Blosh and Sean what? I'm sorry.
Daly.
Okay.
Oh.
As a full-time,
Okay.
And you should have done the letter today.
Okay.
Okay, well, we didn't know
So
that. I don't know him, but I'd like to nominate Michael Blosh.
Okay, we have a motion by Michael Blosh, and we have a second by Mr. Bender. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none? Thank you.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. We still need one more member, so we'll have to do that. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien to adjourn.